Alrighty, good morning, everyone. We're going to call the meeting to order and verify that we have a quorum. All right, we have the minutes from our previous meeting here. If everybody will look over the minutes, if you already had a chance to, just to make sure that there's no additions, deletions, or insertions that we need, I'll entertain a moment that we approve the minutes as submitted. There's a motion made by Craig Burt that we accept the minutes as read as a second. Second by Ellen Futterman. All those in favor say aye. Motion carries. I think I'm going to probably leave the president's report alone. In terms of, I've already covered much in the executive session. Those of you who were on the board know that I pretty much went through the litany of things that occurred over the past 3 years, but I shall endeavor just to go over a couple of items. First off, these last 3 years have been very trying and very challenging, not only to me personally and to you personally, but to our industry as a whole. We've enjoyed a comeback. We are certainly not in those days where we're locked down again, not fearful to go out in public, and not able to even go to synagogues and pray in our own communities. But we are in a much better space than we've ever been. However, we have had an impact on this industry. And one of the things we'll be covering later on will be the future of AJPA in terms of where we need to be headed, where we are, what we're doing right, what we maybe could do in terms of improving ourselves, and essentially trying to get a handle on where our organizations are. It is a very expensive proposition to travel to a conference like this. And those of us who even live here, it's an expensive proposition for us to take on the mantle of leadership, stay in the hotel, and of course, other aspects of coming to a conference, even if it's nearby. So we understand that it's a strain on everybody's budget and that it's a certain amount of time that's invested too. But my answer to all of you, and I think the answer resounding that people have had to let me know about, is that the networking, the opportunities to meet in person are invaluable. And that the kind of relationships that we make at these conferences is absolutely critical to the future of our association and to our individual organizations. And for those of us who are freelancers, for the ability to continue to prosper in what is a very, very challenging environment. So at that point, I guess what I'll essentially conclude and say, it's been my pleasure to be your president for the last 3 years. Challenging as the years have been, I believe that the future of AJPA is in very good hands. Ellen, you've got quite a bit headed down the road. But again, my assumption was over the course of the last year that you were going to be taking on that particular leadership role. And so I'm delighted that you, at least for a year, have pledged that you will be able to do that. And maybe once the job takes on, maybe you'll want to stick around maybe a little bit longer and get some of these other people trained and up to snuff. But you've got a great core on your board coming in of great leaders, and I hope that they will continue to support them as you did me. And so I appreciate all that you did. And again, it's a sometimes thankless position when you're in, when you do these sorts of leadership roles. I had not envisioned being president at the same time as I was president of the National Association of Masonic Scouters, which I'm very involved in. And of course, on Saturday, I'm getting in a car and I'm driving several hundred miles to West Virginia to live in a tent for 2 weeks for the National Jamboree of the Boy Scouts of America. So you understand, this is not an easy role to do with just so little bit of time. But for those of you who are committed to AJPA, please continue to do all you do. And again, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. My sister, who's not here today, also wants to extend her thanks to you. And again, I appreciate everything you did, including the award last night, Ellen. That was very, very sweet, and I do appreciate that. And we're going to continue on. Our treasurer's report, Jim, you have a report? You can if you want. Well, I'm actually on StreamYard, and it's streaming right now live on YouTube and on the Crescent City Jewish News. Just anything you don't want to release over the internet, just keep confidential.
All right. All right. So, Alan, you don't want me to talk about last night, right? Okay. All right. So I'm going to be very brief with the treasurer's report. When we have the executive committee meetings quarterly, we have more detailed stuff, but for the purposes of this meeting for the general membership, which hears this once a year, I'm just going to focus on the big picture from last year to this year, because I think that's the most relevant. During the last year, which is our year is the calendar year, we lost money because the key to our financial performance is the economics of this annual meeting, at which we generate a fair amount of profit, which then goes to cover all the rest of our operating costs. And so last year, primarily because of cost increases that came out of COVID, although we made money on the annual meeting, and we did not lose money, but we did not make as much money as we had budgeted for. And therefore, we ended the year with a shortfall. And to cover that shortfall, we had to withdraw money from our reserves, which is the Fidelity account. So that was fine because we have enough reserves to do that, but obviously we can't continue to do that in perpetuity. We have to at least break even each year, which means that we either have to improve the economics of this meeting, the annual meeting, or we have to do other things to get us to a break even. And so for this year, where we're halfway through, we really do not have a very good view yet because this meeting is, again, our most important economic event. And we're in the midst of it, and we don't really have the complete set of numbers for either the revenues or the costs from this meeting. We are cautiously optimistic that we'll actually perform pretty well at this meeting, somewhat close to budget, which would be a good thing. But we really won't know until another couple of months exactly where we're standing for this year. So that's really all prelude to the next session, which is a discussion, an open-ended discussion about the future of the AJPA and what we want to do and how we want to operate, because the world has gone through a lot of change. Our economics have gone through a lot of change, and it's really imperative that we reassess everything about what we're doing, why we're doing it, how it makes sense economically and in terms of value to members. And so I urge everybody to stay for the 11 o'clock session, because that's really going to lay the foundation for our finances and everything else going forward. Thanks. Oh, unless there are any questions. Questions? Okay.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate it. And again, Jim took over from Kevin Adelstein, of course, who did a great job during my term of office. The Cleveland Jewish News has made themselves known in many, many ways. And I've already thanked Bob Jacob for his excellent work. We'll hear from him in a little bit as part of our committee reports. Right now, we do need approval of the task at hand, which is the main reason we're here today, which is for the nominating committee. So I'm going to ask Ellen Futterman to come to the podium and read the list of the names of those people who will be your new leaders for AJPA moving forward into 2023 and 2024. I'm just going to sit right here. I'm going to stay right here.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. It's a little awkward since I'm asking you to vote for me, I guess. But so here's our slate. Myself as president, our first vice president, Shana Goldberg, who wasn't able to be here because of some health.
Who's coming in right now? That's Bob.
Okay. Because of some health concerns, but she sends her best. She and I spoke before the conference. Second vice president, Karen Smilik. Third vice president, Lonnie Goldsmith, both of whom are here. And then Kayleen Ladinsky has graciously consented for a second term as secretary, and Jim Busis for For a second term of treasurer, sorry. And do I need to read the executive committee members?
Yes.
Okay, and then our executive committee members who are being reelected to a one-year term, and that would be Kevin Adelstein, Sarah Breger, who is not here from Moment Magazine, Felicia Kramer from JTA, Ami Eden, Michael Geller, Rabbi Hillel Goldberg from the Intermountains Jewish News, Fagi Holt, Lisa Hustein from Hadassah Magazine, Bob Jacob, Jamie Janoff from the Jewish Standard, Robert Kern, who I believe is on Zoom or watching. Hi,
StreamYard.
hi, Bob. Adam Mandel, Carrie Mills, David Portnow, Steve Rabinovitz, Jody Ruderin, Rabbi Mati Seligson, Cecilia Weintraub, and David Walensky. So,
And also, you might want to read the list of the names of the past presidents.
okay, and at Ellen's suggestion, I will read the names of the past presidents. Craig Burke, who's here. Robert Cohn, who is from the Jewish Light, who sends his regards, and I'm sure wishes he could be here, but mobility is not his thing these days, but he's as sharp as a tack, so, and still writing for the Jewish Light. Amy Doty, Deborah Rubin, Alan, and Marshall Weiss. So I guess we need
Nomination be accepted as read. We need a motion.
a motion that the nominations be accepted as read. Do I have a motion? Fagi, do I have a second? Kevin, I see back there. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Your new president.
I know you're going to do a great job. Do want to ask a quick question is, I don't think Celia's here today, so we're not going to have an advertising and marketing report. As far as the 2023 conference committee, you all are evident that we did a fairly good job of getting people here. We would have liked to have had a few more people in attendance, but yes, Craig. Let me put the microphone on, Craig, if you don't mind.
In our session yesterday, we were talking a little bit about grants. It's a really interesting idea, and
Is this bothering you?
No,
I could put it low.
no, I just have to get up and do the eggs in a minute.
I think that you should.
What do you want me to do?
Oh, just spill out the hot water and put in cold.
Right now?
Yeah,
I'm gonna make a little scene.
The idea is advertising better.
all right. I might do the same. I'm not
Correct,
sure.
thanks for bringing that up. So for those who were in the business session that weren't able to join us across the hall yesterday, we brought up the concept of, and this came from the session was how for-profits can generate revenue that nonprofits typically would generate in their operations. We have myriad of examples of for-profit businesses that have been successful in doing that, including ours in Cleveland. But Reader's Digest version, the idea was that why can't we as AJPA identify potential grant opportunities that AJPA could apply for as a nonprofit for purposes of supporting its members, and then distribute the funds generated from that grant. We would have to identify obviously what the money's we use for. It could be something as generic as supporting and funding local community journalism throughout the United States and Israel. That we would just identify who those grant opportunities, where those grant opportunities exist. So either we find a grant writer to help us with that, or we put a group together, a committee that Craig is proposing together that would identify to replace Sewage Committee, because we've all agreed, even though we've made numerous attempts to slice and dice how we could make that work. There's no conceivable way for us to put an ad network together and evenly distribute any revenue advertising to to our members. So that's just not feasible. We don't want to do it. So Joe, sorry, yes. Two in.
Microphone.
So, I worked for, 20 years as an association director and as a consultant. I spent a lot of time with the alt weekly newspapers. They tried to do an ad network, they failed. It doesn't work. I will say that in the last couple of years as a consultant, I was working with a coalition of the Black newspapers of America, the Hispanic newspapers of America, and the alternative newspapers of America. And I was able to help them get seven-figure grant from Google to upgrade their digital, to move from print to digital in a meaningful way. So 7-figure grant from GNI, and I think that this organization could probably do something similar, or maybe join with that coalition. There's a lot of money out there to help local print go in get digital revenue in a meaningful way. There's a lot of money out there for that, and it would not be hard.
Madam President, I nominate Joe Ellen to head this committee.
I'm all over
And rename it. Yeah.
This will be something that we'll take up under new business, so just keep in mind that we need to move the meeting along. We're actually in the committee task force reports phase of this meeting, so let's continue, if we will.
Bob, how you doing out there? Okay, wanted to ask for Karen Smilk to deliver her membership report to the committee. Everybody from the membership committee who's done an outstanding job. Karen, you want to come up or? Okay, then I have to turn everything around. Come on, that's okay.
Thank you. I really interested in this discussion before, so if that needs to be money is crucial, so if we have more time for that, I'm happy to just be very brief.
New business.
Okay. Membership has gone up, not sizably, but steadily in the past 4 years, and there's a booklet, and I have all the numbers. We can email that to you if you're interested. The point is, we're not losing membership. There's no attrition. Right, so we're steadily going upwards, and there's a push at the organizational level for Jewish organizations to be a part, and Bob actually came up with a great idea for another, the Jewish museums and Holocaust museums, which is going to be an effort I will hopefully push in the next few months. So we're looking to just keep moving upward at a slow but steady pace.
Again, many thanks to everybody who serves on that membership committee. Again, always looking for new members for the future of our organization to be strengthened. We're going to do a quick update. We did have a proposition, I believe, Desiree, about the 2024 conference. Doesn't require a vote, but the proposition that was out there was to go to Nashville. So for those of you who have been in a fog and did not heard, we are going to Nashville next year. God willing, everything goes well. The Federation supports us and what have you. And it'll be Barbara Dabb and of course Kerry Mills who'll be up there with their boots on the ground taking care of all the business that we need to do up there. And also, as far as reports go, we've got 3 left. Bob Jacob, first off, with the Rock Hour Committee report. If you want to come on up and give the report that way, it'd be easier for me just to give you the microphone. There you go.
Thank you, Alec. I did want to thank the Rock Hour Committee, our great committee. We keep adding people. It's it's 4th year already, and I don't think I formally thanked them at any of our sessions this week, but Sorry? Okay. The leader's only as good as the committee. The team is only as good as the coach, but don't tell the team like the NBA or anything. Quickly then, fourth straight year, we've had record number of entries, and this is amazing testament to, everybody here that's entering. We went through COVID. We were 1,182 entries this year. 4 years ago, we had 725. And that is a big revenue generator for this organization. We also had 2 fewer member entry organizations this year, but still a record number of entries. We had 59 individuals and publications compared to 61. Previously, we had 57 and 54. So we've been staying steady, even though there's been a decline in publications. We added some categories. The quick takeaway is I got some good feedback last night. We will be talking about it. We meet 3 to 4 times from like October, November, December for like 1 hour each time. We always looking for new members. I believe we got some good ones coming on board. They always come with good ideas. We did have 2 fewer categories. We're going to look at reducing the number of categories, maybe changing the divisions up again, which we did 4 years ago, and definitely adding podcast categories. We did not want to rush anything this year. The other thing, the big thing that's on my agenda is I want to get some sponsorships for these categories. When I took over, we had 1. That one dropped off. We got 1. That one dropped off. We had 1. There is absolutely no reason we cannot rethink how we're doing this ask, and it may be part of the larger discussion. And I'm happy to entertain any questions.
All right.
Thank
Great
you.
job. Thank you again. Great job. Craig Burke, sponsorships. Again, absolutely vital to any conference that you put on is that we have sponsors. And again, we may take that opportunity to thank the board of people represented there who have made this conference possible. And Craig's the committee man responsible for sharing that.
Thank you, Alan, and Ellen, congratulations. Okay, so I just wanted to start off by saying that, being part of this sponsorship committee, everybody that has been on my committee, they're so awesome because they all have day jobs and they have a lot of pressure on them for what they get paid to do. And then to volunteer their time and make calls and call businesses to try to get sponsorship opportunities and drive revenue for this association, and they don't get any commission for it. It's just incredible. And thank you so much for all of my committee members devoting their time to this cause. Desiree, thank you so much for what you do, because you and your team, you guys sold a lot of sponsorships, and the names that you saw up on the screen during this whole conference, they sold a lot of them. So I consider them as being part of my committee. Also Kevin and Steve Rabinowitz and Alan, you guys were consistently on every call, and I appreciate you guys doing that. And we worked very well together, and we even had Gidon as a special guest at one point, and Kayleen and Michael, you guys joined on board a couple times and have been great contributors to this committee. So if I missed anybody, Larry, I think you came on board for a couple of calls and you made your contributions, but thank you everybody so much, because this is not an easy thing to do, to make a pitch to these organizations. And, we have all these different packages, and it can get a little confusing when you're seeing all the different packages. But just so everybody knows that even though we do have a promo that has all the different packages for sponsorships, that we will customize any program to fit their needs. We just want to make people happy, and just let us know if you have somebody on the hook, and if they have some special needs, we likely will be able to help them out. Anyway, our budget was set at $41,903 from what I saw on those finances on the budget, and we came in at $42,950, which was plus $1,047 over budget. So looking forward to doing that again. Our committee had set a committee goal of hitting 55, and we didn't make it, but we did achieve the budget. So next year we're going to hit our goal. So go team. Thank you.
From your mouth to God's ears, hopefully. We have one final committee report. That's the webinar committee. And that guy, that webinar chair, I gotta be careful about. Anyway, we have had several webinars that we did throughout the 3 years that I was serving as president.
several of them dealing with Israel, several of them dealing with the protests recently that we had, the elections. And then, of course, Hugo Ottolenghi, big thanks to Hugo for all that he's done to continue professional development for our people. He's not only a Rock Hour judge, but he also has started what essentially is a movement, personal and otherwise, to improve the quality of writing in our organization. He felt that there was a need in the Rock Hour competitions to help us out, and we appreciate every bit that he does for us, and hopefully will continue in the future. Ellen, I know that you will want to continue to have him on with our freelancers, and hopefully we have the freelancers fireside chats and things of that sort that we had as well with the webinars. But those were very, very important to keep our organization together, and I felt very empowered at that point of time that our organization was locked down. We were all trying to figure out how to navigate through this rather perilous time, and those webinars did link us together as an organization and keep us going. We learned best practices from people like in Cleveland and of course, with Mid-Atlantic, several things that they were doing to keep business happening. So it was really important that we had those webinars available to us. All right, I'm going to move from our committee task force reports into new business, and I believe there might be a motion on the floor for starting up a new committee on grants or to rename the grants committee, and if there is a motion, I'd entertain it at this time.
I move that we change the name and focus the advertising and marketing committee to the revenue committee. And it changes, it deals with everything associated with revenue, including grants.
Okay, so Jim's proposal is, and do I hear a second first off? Second from Kevin Adelston in the corner. Jim's proposal is that we have a new committee formed to replace the advertising committee called the Revenue Committee, and that this would be a committee that would take on the task of finding new sources of income for our association. Is that, yes, yes, Ami? No.
So what is the, okay.
We're just creating a committee.
This is gonna.
I thought you said that it would be one revenue committee.
No, excluding the sponsorship, sorry.
All right, so-
I was gonna say, it feels like a different.
Have I stated the proposal, Jim, correctly? Have I stated the proposal correctly just now?
I'm sorry, we're happy to carve out the sponsorship thing. We're not touching the sponsorship.
Well, we need to know whether or not that's the proposal that I'm saying, and then I can have discussion on the floor. Was what I stated correct? I restated your proposal. I didn't use your exact words, but I restated your proposal.
I like the track that Jim's on for the name. I do think it should replace the advertising and marketing committee. I think there's an extra word that probably should be put on there, which may be either specialized revenue, customized revenue, supplemental revenue. It shouldn't get confused with sponsorship.
Right.
All right, we still don't have a motion on the floor to discuss this, so let's restate it again. All right.
Is this committee to fundraise? Is this like?
Yes.
But is it for this organization or for the industry?
For AJPA.
For AJPA as an organization.
Why can't we call it a fundraising committee?
Once again, the motion on the floor is to have a new committee set up that will replace the advertising committee, named the Revenue Committee, Revenue and Grant Committee?
To avoid any confusion with the sponsorship committee, let's call it the fundraiser.
All right,
But
development. All right.
With all due respect, it doesn't speak to raising money.
Development and grants?
Whatever Jim wants, he's.
No, we are a nonprofit, we need nonprofit for development.
We only have 3 minutes left, guys. Can we get a motion on the floor, please?
I second it, development committee.
All right, Development Committee, as stated, Desiree, you got that? There's a second on the floor. Discussion.
What was that? We just had a discussion.
I just want to say, I do think that the committee can totally figure organization to do organizational things, and for the field and the organization's members to do journalism.
Right.
And I think that it's possible one committee could do both, although with the continued existence of the sponsorship committee, I wonder whether this committee should be focused on raising revenue, which could be fundraising or otherwise, for the field and its members, versus raising revenue going into an organization. Those two things they will overlap and intersect, but they really are different areas.
I think realistically, would probably, I think if we get to the point where we're doing what you're saying, we're gonna be having a lot of similar conversations with similar entities. So I would think that having the development committee have both of those things in its mandate, given the reality of our resources and stuff, you're gonna be pitching founding, it's gonna be like, what, Joey, you're not.
The way you pitch stuff is you pitch programs run by and that's the way it's pitched. And so it doesn't really matter because the funders know that they're funding the association to create programs for the field. So it doesn't really, with respect to the funder, they're funding the association to create programs.
You're not suggesting securing grants for purposes of reporting on Jewish church? Is that what you're proposing?
Yes, I am. So
That's
if you
kind of
look
what
at
I'm
the
talking
model
about.
So I'm thinking about the model of the Institute for Nonprofit News, which is created the Newsmatch program, right? It was INN, because there's all these time members who cannot afford to have development committees of their own and to go out to, and also it would make the funders crazy. They've created a grant-making arm of their organization as well. So what I was saying about the organization is like, it is a long road to get from here to the idea that this organization could be helping to do that. So my concern is that if you don't like specifically say, we are going to look into the possibility of a whole new.
I feel like you're two steps ahead, because I think this is part of the strategic discussion we have to have about the organization, to decide if we want to do that.
Fine.
You know,
That doesn't help AJPA.
Any further discussion on the motion? Bob?
Is the mission more important than what we call it? Because we're trying to create a revenue stream with the categories. Craig's committee creates it for the conference. And then now we have a third development, grant making, whatever. So before we name it, maybe we should know what we want it to be.
I think we're going to approach it, I think,
Does that
isn't the idea that we want.
No, it doesn't overlap.
We want to sense.
Well, we could be going after some of the same entities.
I mean, I think the question is more, these are the two ways we're talking about, and Rock Hours crosses them, right? Meaning, there are gonna be people who are gonna be interested philanthropically, and there are gonna be people who are for profit. I don't know if that means you can't do it separately, but these are two different things. Like, selling sponsorships is different than going to foundations who don't care if their name is on it or not. They want to do, like, they buy our mission and they're gonna donate, it's a different ball wax.
I want to, we're not approaching someplace.
But we're not a vast bureaucracy, we're 10 people. So it's not gonna be a problem.
Who else has a hand up?
Desiree.
Desiree.
I would just propose that the three committees between Rock Hour Sponsorship and the new committee regularly meet at least together, so there's not overlap. That would be my only recommendation.
Kayleen?
So I'm wondering, are we asking for people to sponsor the organization and give money to?
That's separate.
So.
Yeah,
No, this is more
Given the mission,
Yeah.
the organization should get a cut, like it's customary with so many other big non-profits. The American Friends of, big organization, fundraises for Israel for a project. And the American Friends of get 1, 2, 5, 10%, whatever they do.
No, but we're not, what we're saying right now, we're saying this committee's immediate agenda is go raise money for AJPA. We have a budget hole, like, we're gonna have a strategic vision for the organization. This committee's gonna be producing grant proposals, whatever, for AJPA. But like what Jody's saying, and maybe Ellen, very shortly, we could be deciding, for the first time, we want to be in the business of really trying to raise money.
Maybe that's
Like,
what we're
become
gonna
a
do.
friend
Maybe
of
have to
the
raise money for the
AJPA.
organization.
Desiree, this does not require a bylaws change, correct?
not a bylaws change, because it's not technically a standing committee. We
Okay.
could add it to the bylaws, but I would say we should also nominate a chair.
Right. Well, we first off have to have a committee, and wouldn't the president appoint the chair?
We can do it that way.
Yeah, so the incoming president, our new president will appoint the chair.
What I heard Joellen talking about was more of getting money for being able to do grants through the AJPA or whatever. So we bring in somebody, I don't know, say Knight Foundation decides to give us $10 million. All right? I mean, it's never, you know what I'm saying? We can't cut it as AJPA. That's money. Our members, this is how I would proceed. Our members could then apply for money for certain journalists and Joellen, who I would hope might lead this committee, would then maybe there'd be a panel that would vet the proposals and then a decision would be made, I don't know. in terms
Joel,
of-
do you see, assuming we do that sometime in the near future, you see that having to be a separate committee as opposed to a committee that's also raising money for the organization?
This is the same committee,
Right,
I mean,
okay.
the thing is, the same
That's how
committee, I
you
mean,
fundraise
the thing
money.
is, it's a fundraising committee, and you go to the funders, and you see what they're interested in.
Right.
And this is new business, Ellen, but, I mean, I have a lot of ideas in new business, I mean, I feel like to make this organization really functional, and to get more people to come to the conference, and more people to sign up, it has to have more benefits to the members of the conference. And like, a lot of these organizations offer like fellowships, where they offer grants for specific kinds of reporting projects, where they offer like trips to Israel for doing reporting projects, where they offer something or another, like mentorship for new reporters who are going to the Jewish field, or there's, where they
Use the
offer like,
listserv.
yeah, where they offer like digital upgrading for people. So in other words, there's a lot we can offer the members that we're not offering now, and the only benefit, but the only benefit of AJPA is this conference. It's not worth it. Like, it's not worth it. I mean, because honestly, there's lots of other conferences. Like, I'm going next week to the all-weekly conference. They all have weekly, daily papers. They all do advertising. They all do sponsorships. They're really good at it. They make tons of money, and they have more vendors coming. And I'm gonna learn a lot about print publishing, like more than I'm here to be just a friend. So why am I coming here? I'm coming here because of the Jewish organization. I care about the Jewish press. I care about what we can do to get, we're having a hell of a time finding reporters and editors. I want more journalists to come into the Jewish press. AJPA could be doing that by offering fellowships that we could do scholarships at journalism schools to help new Jewish journalists. We could do internships. We need to bring more people into the field. That's what this organization should be doing. That would make it really valuable. That would make everybody want to participate, especially if they get some cash, for doing their work. So but to do that, it's obviously not going to come from the members. It's not going to come from businesses to sponsor. It's going to come from big funders that have millions of dollars that care about Jewish journalism, and they don't want to fund a specific paper. They want to fund a whole.
Absolutely.
And
But I would
just
make
to
it
piggyback on that, I mentioned yesterday the business session in Pittsburgh. We have a secular media organization that cuts across the city with all publications we're active in. They're a nonprofit, they're actually part of the university. They went to big city foundations. They got money to support local journalism in the city. And part of the funds is they run a summer intern program for all of us. They recruit summer interns, they pay the summer interns, they train the summer interns, and they give it to us for free. We could do the same thing.
Right, but I just to pull the thread, like, I feel like we're having two different conversations, which is the one is very rudimentary, we should have a development committee because we're not for profit. And then we're talking about, like, the need for like a strategic planning committee to decide what we're trying to raise money for. Like, the development committee isn't the place to figure out.
Right.
Like, it's like, what do we want to do with me? And then Greg and the development committee go raise money for the things we're doing.
Yeah, it has to be someone who knows nonprofit. Yeah, we need a strategic task force, but I need a development committee.
But everything, Alan, that Joellen spoke about, and Alan, incoming president, is the future of AJPA.
Absolutely.
That's all the future of AJPA.
And we
what
have to
we
give
want it
members
to.
more than this conference.
I
Yes,
mean,
absolutely.
in quiet chats with folks who are not here, who I keep in touch with, they're not feeling the work. And we have to make this organization worthwhile, and the way to do it is, I believe, is what Joellen is proposing.
Just a small side to what you were just saying, what Joellen was just saying. Everyone who is involved in planning next year's AJPA conference, and frankly, to everyone who's on the executive committee, I highly recommend going to at least one other journalism conference in the next year. See what is possible. Joellen has been very keen to send folks on our staff to a variety of conferences. She's very plugged in and has a sense of some really great programs that are out there. She's sent to 3 conferences in the last 6 months, all of them amazing. Go to these things, see what is possible, see the things that people are talking about out in the larger field. It will make us stronger.
I have a segue, so I just got back from the National Federation of Press Women Conference. That has a membership of 725 down from 1,000, but here I am. I'm the membership chair, and I am actually hooked into them now, and they're going to help me. So I've reached out to another organization. But here's a logistics problem. First of all, none of us are a lot of these journalists here, we're not marketers. Like, I couldn't sell probably water to a person in the desert. And this time factor, like, we put in so many hours and work is crazier than ever. So how do we do this? Like, how do we add more, how can we, I mean, this is not my rubric. I mean, I could do membership, but in terms of what we're talking, these large goals.
Can you say, how do you come up
How
with a
and
strategic
when-
plan?
No,
How do you
how and
execute
when
one?
do we do that as journalists who are going?
No, because if you have, the first step is we chart an inspiring vision, and then we see what is needed to make it happen without parents doing a job on top of the job. That's what we raise money for.
And then you are going to get paid person.
Yes, that's what you raise money for.
I mean, also, a lot of people in this room are already spending a lot of time on this organization, probably including you, not really including me, but it seems to me that most of that time is about the organization as an organization. A lot of what I have heard in my very limited experience with the organization is like, it's about making sure we can make money for the organization or for the conference. It's like not about the journalists, the journalism organizations, or the journalists. And I think it's like I don't think it's like we're gonna do both things. I don't think you can keep doing all the work that you've been doing to sustain the organization for the sake of there being an organization and do a whole bunch of new work. It's about like shifting the work and shifting the focus to say, this organization doesn't need to exist for the sake of having an organization with a conference and meetings and committees and Like, what is it for? So I think if we can shift to think more about what's it for, particularly in a moment of like really dire need for field building and professional development and digital training and fundraising and all those things from the field and the organizations and the individuals, then we can make the work that everybody's doing, keeping the organization afloat, I think, more impactful. And it's like, what I don't have to do with money at all, so.
Isn't it
you're working on
One at a time, please.
the work you're doing to maintain membership. It's like, I'm not talking about you doing more work. It's like that your pitch to the members would be different. It would be like, this is not like join this organization so that you can do Rock Hour Awards and come to the conference. It's going to be join this organization for X, Y, and Z reasons.
But that's not the thing. A lot of people aren't.
The truth is that these conferences, we've lost registrants. I mean, this is the smallest conference we've had in, I think forever, at least since I've been involved, which has been 14 years. So, I just feel we have to give more to the membership. We have to make it more worthwhile for all member papers, for media outlets, whatever we call ourselves today, for our freelancers, and we have to attract younger members as well. That's very important. I mean, that it's just, if we want to see Jewish journalism continue to not only survive but thrive.
I mean, I really hate to say this, I'm gonna say it though, and I know it's like I'm a new person, I'm coming in, you all have done a tremendous amount of work. This conference has been really well put together, the food, the location, everything, the Southern Museum, terrific. But I would say, from like, a strategic perspective, I think the best thing this organization could do would be to pause for a year, not do a conference next year, tell everyone that we're in a strategic planning mode, that we really need to kind of reimagine the organization, do the strategic planning, get a lot of money, have a blowout conference in 2 years where we, reveal the new plan, get everybody, make sure that all the members come, and like kind of reinvigorate.
I gotta tell you, I feel like that's just so ambitious. I think people will just, opt out, like you lose them. From someone who's talking to, and almost like so many of these members, it's the camaraderie that they get from being a Jewish journalist in the large circle of journalism. And, like, it's one of those things like where I have kids in school, we decide not to do the fair this year, we're gonna do the spring fair this year, we're gonna, you don't do fair, it just doesn't come back, something else will come back, and it could be good in a different iteration, and it could be even better, but that fair is not good.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I'm suggesting that is because it's not that many people.
Well,
There's also reasons why there are not that many people here. This got moved to July instead of our meeting slot. July's a vacation. There's other reasons. This particular conference. Also, people mentioned, New Orleans, July,
But there is in every person's comments, there is an overriding commonality. There's a theme that, and we've been talking about this in the executive committee for a couple of meetings now, in that the organization does not have a viable path forward to continue to do things the way we have always done things. And we need to refigure out what is our value proposition to our members, to the industry. Yes, we are here to support our members, but also the industry. And we have to figure out how do we do this in today's world, today's environment. And we are going to need help from the philanthropic community. And we need to have a better plan ourselves about what it is that we're trying to do and get ahead. And to that extent, we really need both of the things that we've been talking about. We need some kind of, whether it's the executive committee themselves or a separate strategic task force, we need someone to sit down and figure out what the future of this place should be at this point in time. And I can tell that there are plenty of people here who have experience in doing this for various organizations, either from the inside or out as a consultant. And we need to raise some money to support all of us. And those are probably the two most important things we have going forward.
Do I have a call for the question yet on the motion? Because a lot of this discussion.
Interesting because you were nodding when Jim was speaking, and when I'm thinking about all the things you're saying, right? Like you're saying, I get why you're nervous about not doing conference next year. But you also talked about how are we gonna do everything? And then you're nodding about Jim with what we have to do. I think part of the thing is if you agree with the last thing Jim said, which is like, we're not viable, like, are you convinced if we go the straight path that we're on right now, this will be a viable, successful organization for 5 to 10 years?
No.
Right, so once you say that, now go back. Do we have the time to create, do we have the time to do conference and everything as usual and develop a new compelling vision for the future? And then that's the answer to the question, right? You can say yes, you can say no.
I don't think the conference is.
So,
Point of order. We do not have time to debate this. We have to debate a question that's on the floor pertaining to the creation of a committee that will be created for next year's development. We cannot, Jody, have people having conversations. We have to vote on this motion. We can proceed with our future AJPA discussion after this meeting is adjourned and we continue for people for the benefit. Okay? Desiree. Okay. So is there?
on is this meeting versus the next meeting?
It's not necessarily.
So let's go on the development committee and then move on. I think all in favor.
Is there a call for the question first off?
Yeah.
All right. All those in favor of the motion signify by raising your hands. Everybody online, please signify by raising your hands as well. All right. We'll register those as well. Motion, opposed, anyone opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, in the interest of moving ahead to our conference, concerns about the future of the AJPA, I'm gonna dispense with good and welfare, other than to say, thank you all for being here. Thank you for electing Ellen, and thank you for being so supportive to Desiree, Taylor, everybody who put this together. All right, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. Jim Eustace, second? Second by, I'll give it to Barbara Deb. All right, all those in favor? So moved. All right, we're gonna move on to the future of AJPA. For those of you who are on the StreamYard call right now, I believe Elizabeth Kratz, you're on now. We were trying to get you in, but we're having problems with getting somebody else. There's a Jewish Journal of something or other that is not going to be connecting right now. We'll try to see if we can keep this on. I also encourage everybody, checkout is at 12 noon. Our session is supposed to start now for the future of AJPA. Actually, we're running a little bit late. But if you have to go back to your room to check out, I would suggest you do that now if you haven't already done so, so that they don't charge you for another day's rent. All right. Ellen, would you like to come on up here, since you are the future of AJPA, like it or not?
Okay, future of AJPA. Should we kind of pick up where we left off before we finished up? Is that, anyone have anything they'd like to say? And I'm happy to pass this around.
Yeah, that'd probably be better.
Well, I'll start it off. To me, there's no question that what has served us up until now needs to pivot somehow, some way to continue to serve us in the future. We just can't kind of keep limping along. So do we have some ideas? I think we do. What are our next steps? In terms of what we know of best practices from other organizations, in terms of what we know now, what are our next steps? Would anybody like to start? Tommy?
Favorite approach to anything, I'll go with the process, right? We're not gonna solve anything in the room. I mean, any organization that is at this crossroads that moves forward, you have a strategic planning committee, and then it's about how you build a process and all those things. We'll have a discussion, but we're not gonna solve anything. We have to have a process in place.
Right.
To move it forward, and you have to give that process some sort of mandate, whatever that mandate is. I realize that's not a great answer, but.
No, I mean,
I think that's.
and we need a strategic committee that isn't the entire membership. So we,
No,
you know,
and
it
also
has to
not-
be.
And also probably separate from the work, like, if we're going forward with a normal year, or even a variant on a normal year, right? We find out maybe we're doing a virtual skill building, or we're doing something like, with different things, you have to, like, it has to be like a thing that's moving on its own. You know, that's operating outside of the regular course of business, because like, Karen, we change the staff to people who are, one other problems.
Sylvia, I'm going to come down here.
I think first of all, I just really think Joelle is right about pausing something I think that, you know, I think the hardest thing in the world to do is to stop doing things. I did participate in a really great stop doing workshop, and I could share the outline of it with people if they want. It's just really hard. But I think that this organization has a little bit of the luxury of like, some of what it's doing is like really nice to have, but not like essential versus, I think for most of you, I imagine your conversations, like, we know we need to stop doing it, but it's so hard to pause planning because we're trying to put out, you know, cover the Jewish world every day. So I think we have a little bit of, there's a real opportunity in some ways when you learn, when you realize that the current model is not sustainable, it can feel terrible, obviously. You'd like to current model. But it is also an opportunity to, we can focus on the fact that the current model is not viable, as many of us are doing our own day job, right, with the viability of our model. But it's like, there's an opportunity.
I got your.
Like, what does
I'll come down.
Jewish journalism, the member organization, and the individual journalists need now? And to really think about that in a like very positive and constructive and kind of exciting light, like if you were visiting the American Jewish Association today, what would it look like? It's like this would be very, very different than what it looked like when this organization was founded, because the journalism industry is so different, because the Jewish world is so different, because the economy is different, because of digital. And it's, you know, it is very, very hard to really think about it, but it's very exciting too. So I think we should, I support Joel's idea of taking a pause from the conference, having a task force. I don't know that we need like a formal strategic planning process that is like a 5-year thing with a consultative, but like let's have some people set on the side to really talk about with the membership and with the potential membership about what the some options. And you know, I don't know, I think we should strip it down to the essentials. What is a big way you need to do, and do only those things while we figure out what it could be.
Yeah, and then really.
Obviously, I'm journalist, but I'm communicating, so just throwing it out there and looking at sort of reimagining moving forward. You are trying to grow the organization that you know, and other organizations doing member. I mean, I have to say that I found this conference incredibly useful and very good to me. I'm coming at it at a different perspective, but I think if you want to, and I suppose also to help the financial aspect, get more focused like organizations like EVO and other members thinking about also what other value propositions you can offer our organizations over and above the conference. The conference has been great for me. I would like to see the conference next year, and I know the bigger fish to fry. Because it's part of the package. Over and above the conference, what is the tool for organizations that can go and others to be part of
I wanted to kind of go back. I know Jim said that organization is not viable, and I think that's a little extreme. I definitely think the organization, I mean, I've been a part of the organization for years. I'm also a member of the National Newspaper Association and the Atlantic Jewish Press Club. This is by far the most sincere organization that I've been a part of all of them. And there are a lot of things that come out of our conference. There's some great things that we are doing, but we definitely need to look at other new strategies to add into it. Which is kind of, I don't think it would be proper for everyone who's worked and who's spent years putting so much hard work into it to just pause and, you know, to stop everything. I think there's a lot of people here that deserve, you know, credit of, you know, look, we have a great foundation. You know, what can we add to it? What can we do now to bring in other things? I don't think it's stopping from doing. I think it's maybe adding to it and bringing in, you know, new ideas to what it is that we are doing. Because the conference is really one of the biggest things. We're doing the webinars. So if we could just make this kind of like, this is the smallest conference. Last year we had over 100 people at the conference. And, you know, COVID's made an impact. So I just think that we need to look at maybe expanding our ideas. I think it would really be, it would have a reverse effect to just pause
to the, I mean, there's people that's been members here for 20 years, which is tough, you know what I mean? And I would want to lose members or anything, so.
Just try to keep your comments brief, because I'd like us to walk away with some resolutions as to what the next steps are, because otherwise this meeting, just to vent all our opinions isn't going to really move us forward. So
Say we have an expert in that mix. Joellen has been a consultant for a long time. I really respect her opinion. She has a lot of experience. I don't think we're asking the organization to pause. I think we're thinking about reimagining, and in light of what Jody said, yeah, just about pausing. I think journalism is changing at lightning speed. I just heard yesterday the San Diego Union Tribune was sold to the Alden Group. I mean, there's so much, to be frank, there's so much shit happening on the Biden White House, page thing, where they encourage everyone to get on board to tell the Jewish story. And that's what we all do. So I think we have a very important mission. The time is now, and we're very fortunate to have an administration that is supporting us now, and may God will be elected. So I think the time is now, bottom line.
As your treasurer, I just want to be really clear. And I've been harping this.
Nobody wants to hear from the treasurer.
Everyone wants to hear from the treasurer. I said this executive, and I said this. Besides all of the general trends in journalism and which has been under assault for 2 decades and which shrinks every year. Research specifically to us, if you look at our long-term trends, our membership has been on a steady decline. Attendees at conferences has been on a steady decline. Our finances have been on a steady decline. So we can, we can dip into the key, into our downloads, until the downloads start. But if we don't change what we're doing, we will cease to exist by the. So we have to make change. We don't have a choice. It could be this year. Not 30.
There's some discussion about how most of the conversations revolve around just what is the organization and not focusing on the journalists. I have to say that's not true, and I think it's welcome to join any of the subcommittees. There's a lot of discussions that go on all the time in the subcommittees. We need people to join, we need people to come in and share their ideas. Not like we haven't talked about these things. The membership chair, we have so many conversations of what can we offer members, what do our members need, how can we be responsive, what does it take to bring in new members. That conversation has been going on behind the scenes for ages.
When are you on to?
One.
Please try to go to that, please share the water at one point. The other point that I wanted to make is we have to think about where the growth of the organization comes from. Right now, that's a lot of the individual membership. So as a freelancer rep to the board, we have to be able to offer them more, which is why we're trying to put together this freelancer summit. I am open to anybody's participation, anybody's knowledge. I know I cannot put together conferences, but I'm doing this because I feel that it is so vital. Again, what are we offering our members? That's what our freelancers need. They need a place to be heard. They need to come, they need to talk. I have another point I don't remember, and then
I agree with Betty, and the last 2 conferences, they have been the best. I've been coming for 8 years. Don't like the way something is done, step up and then you get to be a chair of something, and you get to change things. But we have taken great strides on, especially the editorial track that I've been involved in the last 2 years, to give our members more. Having the in-person conference is vital, all that here. How many times do you pick up the phone and talk to another editor or another publisher? You don't seem to have the time. If you've ever been involved in an organization that's not doing something for a year or two, then you never can catch it.
I was at a fellowship with some people in here, and one thing that I learned at this fellowship is sometimes it's a good idea to step up on the balcony and look down as opposed to being sort of in the weeds with everything. And I think we all have a lot of emotional responses to this organization. I know that I told you last night when I first came to my first conference 14 years ago, I felt like the outsider. But over the years, it's folks in the agency are great, and I love coming and seeing everybody. And I can come, which is great, but a lot of people can't. And our organization is, things have changed, and we are losing members, we are losing registrants, and I just think we have to have a bigger picture approach, which is what we're talking about. So we can debate the merits of pausing a conference, and not doing it, being virtually, in person, all those things. And we all, it's true, we all have opinions, and there's work in meeting together. But I think having some kind of strategic discussion with folks in this room and on Zoom and whoever wants to be a part of that, we will have to pare it down because we can't have 60 people on the strategic planning committee or whatever it is we decide. But if you're interested, let me know and we will work to put something together because we really have to take a big picture approach.
Well, I just was wanting to give you guys maybe some out-of-the-box thinking. Like Shelley, as a public relations professional, being here at this conference and having the opportunity to even just have conversations with you, get to meet you, get to know more about you, it's invaluable, like amazing. I would absolutely come back. I'm trying to get other team members of my team to come next year, should there be a conference. And the one thing that comes to mind about what's the value add for like professional and PR like me, the word that comes to mind is access. Having this access, having the ability to again meet you and have these discussions, but say, like, what are the stories that are interesting you? How, Bob and I had a wonderful conversation about PR and the things that, like, even just learn, okay, well, these are the things that PR people are doing that are, things that you don't like. It's kind of conversation. So being able to be, maybe you could go to the Jewish Federation, or are going to the other, there are PR professionals at all these other Jewish organizations across the country, and in Israel, and if you're open to having more PR people, value added.
Not yet. This may be somewhat repetitive, but I think the points about strategic outlook and doing some pivoting are obviously critical. At the same time, as being, we've been on the web for your first Jewish website, and I think we appreciate the limitations of that. And there's something about being in person that we can't replicate. And beyond looking at what AJPA provides to its members, and if we're looking at assets that it has, I think the conference is the greatest asset, perhaps underutilized, but seizing it would be like, I mean, just take a lesson from what everyone here has been reporting on synagogues over COVID. Many of them never recovered from taking a break. And I think before we take a break from a conference, we should continue the unintended consequences could be.
I just want to bring back the idea. I think the square, the circle here is to think about how doing something in person next year, however many days or whatever, where not because the current model isn't wonderful for those of us who are here, but because we have the institutional imperative right now is to make sure we have a compelling vision for the future. So I think do something in person next year, but blow it up and say that next year when we gather, it is going to be a culmination of the strategic process, where a key part of the strategic process, where the entire reason we're gathering is not for next year. The point of the conference in person is not to have sessions to help us all be better at our jobs, but to have it be like this, where we're breaking up, we're brainstorming, we're doing, like, we're leveraging our brain, whatever experts we bring in, it's to help us, getting people from Knight or the other institutes to come and talk to us about how they're able to, so just have a totally different approach that both keeps us all together, like in the way Mike was talking about, but is for the purpose of the strategic. No, what I'm saying is, if we're gonna meet in June, or like whatever the in-person thing is, have it be totally different. The agenda of the conference, the purpose of the conference is first and foremost to drive our strategic process forward. And then you build it from there. And then if you want to do skill building online or not, and experiment with that, it's a separate conversation. I don't know what we do with Rock Hour, but I think the point is do in person, but with a different purpose next year. I think we have to figure that out as we go along, like as we set up the process. What? No, I wouldn't wait. I think that, right, I think the strategic committee moves forward, and then part of their mandate is to figure out how we're going to utilize next year's conference to drive.
I just want to throw out an idea that we had talked about quite a bit in the executive committee a while ago, but I never brought up today. We could do a virtual next year, because I am concerned about our ability to walk and chew gum at the same time. There's so much of our energy goes into the enormous endeavor of putting on an important conference. We need to have extra bandwidth this year, because if we are not, right, if you're doing like a strategic plan of the sort where you can go out and hire a whole strategic planning firm, that's not what we're doing. We're going to make a strategic plan ourselves, and we need the bandwidth to do that as an organization, and that's why, but at the same time, I think it's good to skip a whole year of the conference. That's why I really think we should be virtual next year.
Yeah, I just wanted to just keep everybody's focus on the fact this is the future of AJPA. We did do a very involved poll, which is available. Rather than stop the discussion, I'm not going to start reading off the poll numbers, but suffice to say, an overwhelming large number of respondents said we need to have an in-person, regardless of what other people may suggest, that we need to have an in-person gathering. Now, we may re-envision that based on what's being said today, but I would like to mention one other thing, and that is that we always talk about celebrations that are Martin Luther King, 110 years old, et cetera, et cetera. AJPA is going to be 80 years old next year. We really want to concentrate on the future of AJPA. We need to think about where we want to be in our 80th year. And if this strategic development committee is the jumping off point, it takes a year to plan these things. They need to have their knowledge and nationals, but whether or not they're going to have a conference. We can't cut them off at the knees and say, okay, it's going to go virtual, just like that. We have to have a discussion about it. I like the idea of having virtual. Think about a virtual component plus an in-person.
When is it?
I think that we should set up a strategic plan for the committee and get care of it and then figure that out later. In terms of next year, if people really want to meet in person, when my association was pivoting, what we did is we did an unconference one in that year. And an unconference is you don't plan any sessions. You have a facilitator, and it's I can explain it in detail later, which I won't. But basically, you have the hotel, you have the event,
And then, but you don't have sessions of sessions, your own sessions, some of them can be really rich. So sessions sometimes can be strategic, but it takes pressure off. And it eases up time for people. So I'm not saying that that's a solution, I'm saying that you can come up with solutions that keep the strategic plan.
And then let's get on to the
One question,
setting.
So I just want to give a little historical perspective. So I remember being a little girl and coming to these conferences, and there would be the business meeting at the end, and people actually they were outside, people were outside, get on with it, and then people would of this business planning meeting, and I remember feeling a lot of stress. Like, this is not a we've been growing things over the years, in the world, and we're at the end, sometimes that we're growing, we're changing, big changes hard. That, changes hard in general. The Jewish Herald Voice in Houston, which won several awards last night, okay, we were a few family-owned Jewish papers at the time, like the Intermountain Jewish Leaflet, but the drive is 4 hours, and they couldn't make it because of the way the conference was here for smooth. But to the end, it's not enough to work, right? I'm here, we want to actually meet everybody, and should I come back to the conference because it was something orientation, Georgia. But like, I haven't been back in a long time. I enjoyed it, and I love putting the names and the faces together. But I think we, reimagining it, we've got to really think about everybody. And I hope that the task force will be a real reflection of what we want the membership to be.
You drive from here to Houston 4 hours, you make it pretty good.
Just two quick things. I want to echo what Joe said before, that logistically and not logistically, like, right, I really like the venue, like, really well run, and that's what makes me a little concerned. Like, I feel like clearly people are spending an enormous amount of energy to make this event great, and not that many people are coming, and I think there's a lot of other work that could be done, so in no way you can do this good an event. It's just, I know how much it takes to do it, so I just wanna say that's one thing. The second thing is that I hear what people are saying about concerns about change and disruption. It's real, I get it. It is also true that there are many organizations that have conferences, big conferences every other year, and that's their norm. Like the biennial. In Jewish world, and also I believe for a long time, the Unity Conference, the biggest journalism conference in the country, which
Yeah, I can do it.
but was also every other year for a very long time. So, yes, it's true that if you stop doing something, there's a danger you won't go back to doing it, or maybe you'll go do something else. So I endorse the idea that a smaller group should go figure out. There are many good ideas on the table already, but I just don't want us to get too nervous that if there were not nobody had a conference in 2020 and all those organizations came back somehow. And some of them came back the way they were before, and some of them came back different.
All right, Shelley, and then there's some, very quickly, and then there's some comments that I'd ask from the Zoomers, or whatever. And then
It's from Robert.
Let's leave here with just some plan, okay? Let's not just leave and go to the airport and that's that. Let's have a plan for strategic plan, task force, if you will.
Okay, I'm leaving to go to the airport, and I have to say again, this has been invaluable for me to life and all of that. But I just wanted to ask, is it really an impossibility to do both? To reimagine and have a concept?
Alan?
Okay.
We got from
So this is Robert. Those of you who can see it, I asked him to put it in the chat, but he wrote in the comments. This is fun. I like the idea of an in-person conference. However, I urge that sessions are streamed for those that cannot be there for a registration fee, of course. Being able to connect with you remotely and see everyone is great and should be a model. And if a strategic planning committee is being considered, I would like to be a part of it. Thank you, Robert.
Okay, so, Jim, all right.
So just as a specific proposal, in light of the discussion of time, it's very clear that we're going to establish a strategic planning task force. Doesn't matter what we call it, it's not part of the bylaws, it doesn't need a vote, you can just do it. People can volunteer to you after this, you can ask people to be on it, you don't need to finalize it right this second. And the other thing I'm just going to propose in terms of the conference, we've got a lot of good ideas and thoughts expressed here. I mean, again, we're not going to make that decision right here in the next 5 minutes. We have an upcoming executive committee meeting in which we can really dive into this. And by the time of that next executive committee meeting, we will probably have a much better sense of the financials from this meeting, which is a relevant factor. We don't know that today, so we can take the financials from this meeting. We can talk about the next executive committee meeting and move on.
We got literally 10 minutes. I'll talk 2 seconds.
So that 6 years, there's a terrible thing we all have to talk about, and I mean, I mentioned it very quickly online, but the AJPA could just, you know, I mean, we have to think that not everything is meant to last forever, and maybe its usefulness in some respects has gone, and it can only be, it could be a different entity, a virtual, I don't know, something, but things do end, but I hope not for the 80s.
We didn't get a chance to speak, and then we'll wrap this up, because I know people do need to check out.
I just wanted to sort of say the obvious and propose a really basic idea that I think we could just say some version of yes to and then work on for next year. So I think, I do like the idea of an unconference. I think having a basic, David also went to a couple of conferences where they did case studies, right? We don't need to make it that complicated for the session. We don't need to invite a bunch of speakers, but also just thinking practically, if we say next year we're doing a smaller thing, find a city or a place where there's a Jewish community and flights are cheap, get a Hillel or a Federation building, someplace we can get either for free or for pennies, just a place to gather, basic food stuff, and with that, lower the cost and the barrier of entry for especially the other smaller papers. I think if the networking is there, you fulfill the in-person thing that it seems many people want, and by stripping back, that's a real plan for how to both save money and not have to think too hard about putting that together. And I think, and that might also bring more people back in because they're saying, hey, we're doing this way more stripped back, therefore we're not going to charge as much, and it'll be easier for everyone rather than, you know, having to think a lot about the cost on this other stuff. So I know that might not sound the most appealing. I'm just trying to think practically of if this sounds like a way that we want to do things, here are the logistics of how to not think so hard about that and just make it work. Because at the end of the day, what it's sounding like is this place is about the people. Therefore, let's make it about the people and stop thinking so hard about the other stuff.
Alan, the great job on that, exactly. We did try, I'm not trying to be apologetic for the committee, the organizer. We did try to have a Hillel, and we were gonna try to do that. The problem, of course, was the facilities for the hotels were not anywhere near the uptown area. So sometimes right, you're right. Seattle was a great spot because we were able to stay in that area. You know, so that's one of the projects.
All right, so to sum everything up, and Des, I'll probably need you on this. I mean, ideally, I'd like to appoint Joe Ellen, the task force convener or whatever. And I think that could be my first presidential decision, so there you go. And I would say let her and me know your interest. That said.
Yeah, I wouldn't talk to kids never.
So, you know, figure that out. Let's make it first step. When you let me know
So let me know, kind of your feelings about things as best you can. You don't have to write it like this or whatever, but, either call me or you can send an email and let me know what your concerns are, what your hopes are, and so on. And we will put together something that sounds good, and we'll start moving forward with that. We'll work with Des and her group as far as that goes. We'll certainly keep Barb in the loop. We're not sure what's going to happen conference-wise for a little bit. And it's hard because I'm right, it does take a year, but if we start off, if we do decide to do a conference, it'll be a little bit easier in terms of planning. So, Kevin, you have the last word?
Yeah, just because I want to get this in the minutes. When say the anniversary announced our anniversary organizations.
80, so we had a session earlier today on public relations, PR, and we're talking about generating interest from global foundations to help our cause. We should absolutely make sure that we hire a firm or somebody volunteer who knows how to write press releases, write a press release for the organization to get out to all of our newspapers and everybody in the world. Maybe our anniversary of the AJPA, and we
So
make
you
it
don't
as
talk,
a platform. And
tell him, when you do get a lawyer, ask him to contact your insurance company. You can't-
Well, I said there was an or, that was part of it, okay? I'm still drunk from last night, so there's an or.
Yeah, it went really well, and I'm hardly in any pain.
Oh, okay, good.
Great,
All
I'll
right,
see you on
thank
Friday.
you for taking over as chair again of this entire organization. I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart for coming to my hometown, making Orleans a special place for the AJPA. I hope you like the food, hope you enjoy the maybe flag it like together. We hope we did a good job. I actually did some more like
You can only sue if you can prove damage, physical damage, which
This
you
is
have.
called Lanyard. Those of you who didn't get your name, this is the extra. So go home with our lanyard that we're giving you. I have some extra beads if you want to take some beads with you, some of the grandkids, some of your kids. Yes, lots of beads. You can have lots of beads to take home. I recommend, however, don't overpack them because they will go your baggage down. And we're gonna have to work the airline. Safe travels, love you. See you next year, wherever we may be, virtually or in person. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it's really hard because they want to go to the car insurance and it doesn't pay as much. It's very disappointing.
Yeah, I'll meet you in the lobby.
Thank you, Alan.